Well, in the 20-plus years that I have known him, I've seen it firsthand. Rick Santorum does what's right. He understands the difficult tasks ahead, and he also understands the greatness of our nation. He can lead. And let me tell you this, Rick Santorum will make a great president. I'm sure going to be voting for him in next Saturday's caucuses. I hope you will be too. I'm going to work like the Dickens for the next week, for the next 6 months, and all the way to November to make him our nominee and our next president, and I sure hope you all will join me. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Rick Santorum.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. No, I should be applauding you, not the other way around. I can say this without hesitation. If it wasn't for the people of Missouri, I wouldn't be standing here today. What you did for me a month ago. I mean that. Thank you. So we have a mutual affection, and greatly, greatly appreciate. Was really looking forward ever since that day when the caucuses would roll around, just so I could come back and just say thank you and get to meet the great people of Missouri again and have an opportunity to hopefully get everybody excited about going out and going to those caucuses, like Joanne said. Let me first thank Joanne, and she was one of the first, well, maybe the first, to step forward during our campaign when we were sitting at, well, not a whole lot of numbers in the polls. And Joanne and I have gone back a long time, but you know, I've known a lot of people in Congress for a long time. But there are very few who don't fit in with the old boy network, people that don't pay attention to conventional wisdom, who understand that you have to look past what the pundits are saying and look into the soul of the people that you have to vote for, and you make the decision what you do, what's right. Well, a lot of folks in politics, they just sort of go along. This is where everybody's going, they just go along. I've known Joanne a long time, and I've never known her to just go along. And so I want to thank you, Joanne, for being here, for obviously your kind words, and for your early support and help for me. And I have no doubt that's one of the reasons we did as well as we did here in Missouri. And I appreciate your help and support. So thank you very much. Thank you. And you notice I got a couple people up here with us, and you may recognize, well, maybe both of them by now. I don't know. But with me is my wife, Karen. Karen and I, as you may know, we've been married for 21 years. We've had 8 children. We're raising 7. We got a little boy in heaven. And Karen and I have been through an amazing amount together. We got married the year I ran for Congress. Need I say more? And I wasn't supposed to win that race. So when I asked her when we were dating, I said, you know, hey, I'm thinking about maybe running for Congress. Oh, whatever you want to do, honey, is fine with me. And she was not very active in politics, had never been involved in anything, and so I caught her at a weak moment, and so we have been through the wars together and raising children. And Karen, when we got married, she had been a neonatal intensive care nurse for 9 years, had just graduated from law school. In fact, that's how I met her, recruiting her to join my law firm. And then I had a double recruit. And so Karen gave up her legal career to be home to raise children, and during that time, not only did she help raise children, but she homeschooled those children for, well, we still do, and she had some time on the side to write 2 books. And so she is, you can tell, I mean, I'm married up, which is obvious, but she is someone who's been a great asset, not just for me on the campaign, but the more and more that she gets out and in speaking. We're doing a show tonight. We taped it already for Mike Huckabee. We'll be on Huckabee's show tonight, and she's been doing several interviews now, and the consistent comment I get back is, less Rick, more Karen on the campaign trail. So I'm a strong enough guy to be able to handle that. But she has really just been a tremendous, tremendous wife, mother, and I wouldn't, obviously would not be here without her. So thank you, sweetie. Appreciate that. Thanks. And John representing the family. John is our oldest boy. He's 19. He and his sister have taken off a year from school. Both are in college, and they're my twofers. I don't have to pay for their tuition, and they're free labor on the campaign. So, you want someone who can stretch a dollar, you just watch us. We've been outspent in this race 10-1 by one of the candidates. And you know what? We're doing all right being outspent 10-1. We're not going to be outspent, whoever the Republican is, by 10-1 in the fall. But we're certainly not going to outspend Barack Obama 10-1 in order to try to win this election. We need somebody who can do a lot with a little. And there's one person in this race who's shown he can do that. Well, I greatly appreciate the warm reception, and I have to just say again, I do mean that what happened during the primary here and the caucuses in Minnesota and Colorado gave the country an opportunity to take a second look. And we have battled since then. Ever since that vote, we have supplanted the other candidates in the race as being the alternative to the establishment candidate. And we have finished first or second in almost every state since. We had a good day earlier today in the state of Kansas. Depending on news reports, we're going to pick up anywhere from 33 to all 40 of the delegates in Kansas as a result of yesterday. So when Mitt Romney inaccurately states that I have to win 55% of the delegates or something like that in order to win, well, we're off to a pretty good start, aren't we? So we're feeling great. We've got 2 races coming up, as you know, in Mississippi and Alabama. Also, Hawaii is on Tuesday. John's older sister has the tough duty. She flew to Hawaii today to represent me, and John is not feeling particularly good about that, but that's what number 2, you know how that is. So, but we are putting a full court press on, and we're putting a press on because we believe that increasingly, as this race goes on, that people are seeing that the best chance we have to win this race is to make this about a clear contrast and different visions for our country. That we're not going to win this race by, you know, nominating Tweedledum versus Tweedledee. It's got to be stark. We got to show the American people where we want to go, and it's different from what's happening in Washington, D.C. today. On the issues, all of the issues. And I just want to share with you, on each one of those issues, I think we not only present the best contrast, but we present the best vision for America. Let's take national security. That's not an issue that's talked about very much, but it's important. People say, well, what's going to be the most important issue? Oh, jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, maybe not. We've got a country in the Middle East that's potentially about to explode a nuclear weapon, which will change the face of our earth. It is the equivalent of having Al-Qaeda have a nuclear weapon and the resources to project that power all over the world. That is where we are with Iran today. And we have a president who is doing nothing to stop them. Privately talking about their ability to contain. I was in Washington and gave a speech. I haven't been in Washington very much, but I went to Washington to give a speech to AIPAC. President Obama spoke the day before, and he said that he has Israel's back. After listing a long laundry list of things that the president has done, I made the comment that he doesn't have Israel's back. He has turned his back to Israel repeatedly. And listening to Prime Minister Netanyahu talk about we are patient, but we are running out of time. They see it's not just a casual concern, as it seems to be for this president. It is an existential concern The very existence of the state of Israel is in the balance. We have a president who doesn't seem to care, seems to want to finesse things. He went so far as saying he has Israel's back, and the very next day, the day I spoke, he announced that he was going to negotiate with the Iranians in direct violation of the United Nations resolution, several of them, that said no negotiations shall take place until they stop producing nuclear material. And so he has his back by ignoring UN sanctions and going ahead and negotiating with them anyway, thus again displaying weakness. In 2004, after the events of 9/11, I started studying that region of the country, as I think all of us did. And it came clear to me over and over again that Iran, not Iraq, Iran, was the one we had to be concerned about. And so I authored a bill called the Iran Freedom Support Act, which put sanctions on their nuclear program, which at the time our intelligence community said did not exist, that they'd ceased. Well, I was working with some of our friends in the regions. You can guess who that might be. And we found out that, in fact, that was not the case. I authored a bill. It was opposed by President Bush, Condi Rice, and was filibustered on the floor by none other than Joe Biden. And yet, while it was defeated because of that opposition by 3 votes, within 5 months later it was passed. And what it did, among many things, put sanctions on their nuclear program, but it also funded a pro-democracy movement in Iran. I believe because Iran is not like every other country in the Middle East. It's not an Arab country. Yes, it's a Muslim country, but it's not an Arab country. It is a Persian country. A Persian empire, which was a great and proud civilization. An empire that was not hostile to Jews. Read the Bible. And a civilization that we can work with, that has been hijacked by a bunch of radicals. And we need to be on the side of the Persian people. We need to partner with them, which is what my bill said. And when I appropriated or authorized $100 million a year to build coalitions to try to overturn the government. People have said I'm the toughest guy out there in Iran. I am. I am, because of what Iran is capable of doing. Remember, this was a country that marched out 100,000 children as minesweepers during the Iran-Iraq War. 100,000 dead children to explode mines so the army could follow after them. This is who we are dealing with. They are not, as General Dempsey said last week, rational actors. They are irrational. And so what am I trying to do? Am I trying to get involved in a war? No. Just the opposite. For 10 years, I've been trying to avoid a war by helping to overturn this theocracy. Now, wouldn't you like to have a candidate for president who can point to a 10-year record of policies that would put us in a very different place than we are today, who can take the president on from a basis of knowledge? We have candidates running around saying, oh, they want to run for CEO of America. I'm running to be the commander-in-chief for America. And there are other important issues, too, that we have to look at that are key. No more key domestic issue. People say it's jobs. I think the reason our economy struggles and will continue to struggle. Talk to businesses, as I have, all over this country now, and I hear the same thing, what Joanne just said. This elitist, government knows best attitude, regulation after regulation after regulation. Either crushing businesses by compliance cost or businesses holding back because of the uncertainty of what government is going to do next to you. Americans are different than people around the world. That's why they came here. That's why we all came here. We came here because we were different. We were drawn like moths to the flame of freedom. We wanted to be different. We didn't want to have government that put a yoke on us and steered us around to where we wanted to go. We wanted to free ourselves from that yoke. Our DNA is different here in America. And so when the yoke comes on us, we are not like those docile lambs that follow the yoke as many people do around the world. We wrestle with it. And as a result, we are not nearly as productive. We are not nearly as great an economy. We need somebody who can go out and, on the principal issue of the day around this word, liberty, on the principal issue of the day, be able to go and take Barack Obama on his usurpation of your freedom, of his imposition of his will on yours economically with Obamacare, but also, as we see, morally with Obamacare. The President of the United States believes that he can create rights, that the government creates rights. And of course, when the government creates rights, it can tell you how to exercise that right. It can force you to do things you don't want to do, like buy insurance that the government tells you to. We need somebody in this race who can make this the signature issue that it is. There was a poll taken last week in the swing states, about 10 swing states. 75% of voters, Republicans and Democrats, 75% of voters opposed government-mandated health insurance and Obamacare. It is the #1 most potent issue for us because it's not just about economic pressure and regulation and forcing people to do things that's going to hurt our economy. It's a $2 trillion new entitlement, which is going to balloon our deficit and grow the size of government. And of course, it is ultimately about freedom. It's about the central issue in this race. And there's one candidate in this race who has a track record and a vision that can clearly contrast with President Obama. I never have supported a federal mandate for health insurance, like both of the other candidates in this race have. I've never imposed a top-down government-run healthcare system, like one of the candidates in this race did. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the debate back in 1992 when Bill Clinton was running for president, saying he was going to reform healthcare, that he was going to said if you have a right to a lawyer, you should have a right to a doctor. And they went out and talked about how we were going to create a new government-run healthcare system called Hillary Care. Well, I was in the House of Representatives at the time on the Budget Committee. And a group of us got together and said, we better have some answers, not just no to what he wants to do. And so a guy by the name of John Kasich, who's now the governor of Ohio, and we came together and we introduced a bill called Health Savings Accounts. Anybody familiar with health savings accounts? It is the private sector alternative. It says trust 300 million consumers with the resources and the power to control their health care purchases. Insurance being what it should be, which is insurance, not paying for everything, but having a health savings account instead of insurance to provide the incentives for you to know the cost and to know the quality and to have that interaction with the doctor that you want and the hospital you want. Those are the things that we do in every other aspect of our lives. For 20 years, I've promoted health savings accounts. When I ran for the Senate, I ran against the author of Hillary Care in the Senate, a Democratic incumbent. And in Pennsylvania, we won. I've been for free market health care. I can go out and make the case, as I have for 20 years, about how important it is that we don't have people in America, not just 45%, which is what the percentage is today of people who rely in some way or another on government benefit, but 100% after Obamacare. 100% of Americans will rely upon the federal government for their very life. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be a very different America. We cannot let that happen. And there is only one candidate who does not give that issue away. Either one of the other candidates, particularly Governor Romney, completely cedes that ground. And it's worse. He's actually implemented, and it's a failure. There was a poll taken on Election Day in Massachusetts last week, and 51% of the people who voted in that primary said that they disagreed with Romney Care. So much for everybody in Massachusetts liking it. It's an issue that will be used against us instead of the most important issue to use against the president and what he's trying to do. It is the signature issue in this campaign. It's the reason we won in 2010. It motivated our base. And now, according to the establishment, we need to nominate someone who gives it away. And it's not the only issue. of government control. Look at our energy picture. We have a president who has a two-letter energy policy. N-O, no. We have 60 billion barrels of oil and oil equivalents off our coasts, including Alaska. And the president has said no to exploration in any of those areas. 60 billion barrels. And the president says no. Alaska, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. If you believe the Sierra Club, it's snow-capped mountains and eagles flying over it. If you look at a picture of it, it is a flat, frozen tundra out of 10 months out of the year. And President Obama says no. And then we have federal lands, the opportunity to drill for oil and gas on federal lands. And President Obama says no. Then we can go into the Gulf of Mexico. We have existing leases to drill and deep water. And for a long time, President Obama said no. And then in the face of the fact that we'll lose in the next 5 years 1.5 million barrels a day from Mexico because they will become an oil importer and not an exporter. Venezuela, 2.5 million barrels a day. And China is building a refinery so they will get that oil in the future, in the next 5 years. In the face of that, President Obama has only been able to say yes to one thing. What is it? Financing drilling in Brazil for the Brazilian government. But when it came to building the Keystone Pipeline, to take 500,000 to 1 million barrels of oil a day from Canada in this country, President Obama's answer was no. And then he has the temerity to go down to Florida and give a speech and blame Republicans for higher gas prices. We have a president who has said no. We need a president who will say yes to energy development and energy security in our country. An even more important issue, maybe the most important issue of the night, Missouri 90, Baylor 75. So, congratulations, maybe #1 seed. Never forget about what's really important, right? Well, folks, we have a lot of important issues here. On energy, we want someone who can take the president on, who's been for oil exploration development, someone who didn't own oil wells. My only connection to energy is my grandfather was a coal miner. So I go out and tell the American public about what the truth is. No financial interests. I can go out and talk about how we need fossil fuels. I didn't buy into the hoax that was being perpetrated on the people of this country about man-made global warming. This idea about man-made climate change. You see, there are people in this race when the climate changed to where that was the most popular thing to be. They all lined up. I didn't sit on a couch with anybody, much less Nancy Pelosi during that time. Nor did I crow about imposing the first CO2 cap in the history of the country, as Mitt Romney did when he was governor of Massachusetts and entered into and tried to negotiate a compact of cap and trade for the northeastern part of the country. Oh, when the climate changed, he changed. When it became evident that it was not climate science that was going on here, but political science, then they all shifted around. Oh, now they're all against it. Tells you something, doesn't it? They're all against Obamacare now, but when it mattered, they weren't. They're all against cap and trade now, but when it mattered, they weren't. They're all against bailouts now. But when it mattered, they weren't. You see, when you're president and tough issues come up, that's when it matters. That's when you need someone who isn't going to change with the climate. Someone who you can trust because their convictions are real. They believe in what they say. People ask me, how did you get elected in Pennsylvania as a conservative? I would always answer it this way because it was true. I heard it everywhere. People would say to me, I don't necessarily agree with everything you say. And I don't believe in everything you believe in. But I believe you believe in everything you believe in. And that's why I support you. Give us the best chance to win, Missouri. Give us the best chance. We elect a conservative here in this process. You'll give us the best chance to win. This election has to be about big things. Has to be about things that aren't going to be affected by the unemployment rate. It's going to be affected because this is an election about who we are. You hear everyone say it's the most important election of our lifetime. Why do they say that? Because it is about whether we will be the generation that will take that torch that was lit in 1776, that torch that provided that beacon that Ronald Reagan talked about to the entire world, where people came, your ancestors, from all over the globe, drawn to that beacon, drawn to freedom. And even those who couldn't come or didn't come were inspired by that light and tried to infuse some of that light in their own countries. This is a great nation, a great people, not because of what the government can do for us. We are a great nation because we were founded great. We were founded with this document that, thanks to the Tea Party, has come back into vogue a little bit, something called the U.S. Constitution. Constitution is a great document. It's the operator's manual of America. It's how America is supposed to function. And we better get about getting back to the tenets of that Constitution in Washington, D.C. But it is insufficient. It is the how, but it is not the why. It is not who we are. Who we are is in another document. It is what the Constitution is tethered to. It is the anchor upon which that Constitution cannot go off and create tyranny. It is why some on the left try to ignore this document, put it off as a non-binding, non-legal document of America, not something we should pay any attention to. You hear this all the time from the progressives. Ignore this document. Only focus on the Constitution. And of course, that document is the Declaration of Independence. And when you hear someone say talk about American exceptionalism, what does that mean? Does it mean because we are a superior race? Well, no, America isn't a race. We're a whole bunch of different races and creeds and ethnic groups. We're all hyphenated Americans. So what makes you an American? Is it the land we live in? No. What makes us as Americans is a common set of values. Someone who can come to this country to become an American citizen on the first day they step on the soil, they become an American. Because they buy into who we are in those words in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Think of the words that were used. Truth. Truth. Creator. Endowed. A gift, not something you earn. It's something you're given, written on your heart, because you are a creature of a loving God. Unalienable. Unalienable. They can't be transferred or taken from you. They can be denied you, but they can't be taken from you. There are many in this country who say we have rights under the Constitution. No, we do not. Our First Amendment doesn't give us rights. It recognizes the rights we already have. We built a great nation because we had a document, the Constitution, that was limited to doing one thing, protecting those rights. And a government established that believed that if people went out and exercised those rights with what comes with rights, responsibility. God gives you the rights. He also gives you the laws by which to exercise those rights. And our founders believed that people went out and led good, decent, and moral lives, formed families, pursued their dreams. We gave them unshackled them from convention and class, and let people be truly free to provide for themselves and their families. They could build a great and just society, one family, one church, one school, one small business, one civic and community and aid society at a time. And it worked. It worked unlike any other place because no other place had the courage to try or had the faith in its people to try. We became the greatest country in the history of the world. We transformed the world. For 2,000 years prior to America, life expectancy in the world did not change. 35 years of age, agrarian society, no change. And then America. Life expectancy is doubled. Riches beyond what anybody can imagine. The poorest people in America today would be the richest even 50 years ago. In the comforts that we have, the health care that we have, the technology that we have. This is the greatness of our country. And we are one election away from having broken faith with this incredible tradition. Why? Because we have a group of people in Washington who want you to give up the confidence in yourself, to provide for yourself. That is what this election is about. It is about really big things. At the end of that Declaration of Independence, our founders wrote this: we pledge to each other, as we do here tonight, pledge to each other. As every generation has since that declaration was written, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Each generation has passed off that torch. Our founders knew each generation would have to do what they did. Very few had the odds against them like that generation did. But they, undaunted, went up against the most powerful army in the world. The threat of being hanged. And they fought for freedom so you could be here tonight. And every generation since. No one's asking you to give up your lives. No one's asking you to give up your fortune. But ladies and gentlemen, your honor is at stake. You have to look at your children just like your parents looked at you and you looked at them when they upheld the honor of your family, of Cape Girardeau, of Missouri, of America. You stand on the shoulders of those who came before you. And you have a duty that comes with that honor to make sure that you pass that torch as bright as ever. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do not win, then we will be the generation that lost faith and allowed that flame to go out. That is why I'm here. Karen and I have 7 children, ages 20 to 3.5. We have a special needs little girl who it kills us every day to be away from. She's a miracle to be alive. She's the joy of our life. But we don't know how many days, much less years, we have with her. But we have to be here because this is our watch. Ladies and gentlemen, we pledge to each other right here in Missouri, a state where things, the political center of a presidential election is. I'm asking you to pledge to each other. Over the next week, you go out and you work hard, not just vote for me, but work hard. Contact people. Use your social networks. Use something as antiquated as a telephone on occasion. And you put your honor on the line. If you do that, we will elect and nominate, I should say, a conservative. If Missouri speaks like you did a month ago, we will nominate a conservative. And if we nominate a conservative, you will uphold your honor because we will elect a conservative for president. We will repeal Obamacare. We will pass that torch of freedom to the next generation. And you can say, I did my part when my country needed me. I was blessed to be here at a time when our freedom was on the line, and I did my duty. You do that, we will win, and we will be free. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.